You're listening to Exposure on XFM. I'm John Kennedy, and that is Weezer with Ain't Got No Body. It is the opening track to the brand new album, Everything Will Be Alright in the End. And tonight I'm playing you the whole thing with a little help from Rivers Cuomo himself, who's down the other end of an ISDN line, somewhere in Los Angeles, California, I think. Hello, Rivers.
Hi, folks.
So it's good to have you down there, and it's great to do this kind of via satellites or however the technology works so that you can give us the lowdown on the new record. 4 years in the making, the 9th Weezer album. Is it everything you wanted it to be, Rivers?
It absolutely is. 4 years ago, we decided we wanted to make a classic album that we loved so much and that we could grow old with, and our fans could live with it for the rest of their lives. And it was quite a tall order, but we said we're going to spend as much time as we need to, and I think mission accomplished.
Definitely. I mean, it sounds fantastic, but in some ways it's beguiling because you make it sound so easy, because you seem to have an effortless ability to come up with great hooks and fantastic riffs and excellent lyrics. We wouldn't know that it took 4 years of thought and head scratching.
Oh, that's a very high compliment, I think, because from the very first Weezer album, we wanted our records to be not only deep and complex and have many layers, but also to be immediately accessible and catchy and likable for just about anyone. So hopefully we have achieved both those goals.
Yeah, no, I think you definitely have. And the interesting thing for me is that I meet lots of new bands, and so many of them express a love of Weezer, regardless of the genre that they might be working in. So I might meet a dubstep producer with a Weezer t-shirt on. I might meet somebody like Jamie T over here, who also professes a big love for Weezer. And it's kind of intriguing that you seem to have crossed a few generations, but when you hit deep to these people, and your music has a really powerful effect on them, I think.
Oh, thank you so much. That's a real high compliment. And we love all kinds of music, and we have high respect for other musicians, so it's always great to hear when they appreciate Weezer. And I think maybe it has something to do with the fact that from the first album we were interested in very classic traditional values of melody and strong chord progressions and an interesting lyric. And in a way there was nothing really all that new about it. It's stuff that bands have been doing since the 50s and 60s, and we were fans of classic music ourselves, like the Beatles and the Beach Boys, and we just tried to stick to those really deep universal values. So maybe it's no surprise that people from other genres can also appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, you've created a kind of timeless body of work, I think. And it's interesting that you were setting yourself the challenge to make what you felt would be a classic record. That almost suggests that you felt that you hadn't done that in the past.
Well, yeah, I mean, at a certain point it felt like records were coming and going and slipping away and like they hadn't made much impact. And so we've really determined to do everything we can to make this one stick as a whole, as a body of work, not just as a collection of singles. And we realize people don't really listen to albums anymore. Everyone's listening on shuffle. But we're doing everything we can because we think the album is what we're meant to do. This is how we like to listen to music, and this is how we want to be remembered. So we're going to go out there and tour and do all the promotion. And one of our things we're most excited for is this club tour we're doing next month, where we're playing the new album from beginning to end, and we'll have all our hardcore fans there in the clubs. And I think it'll be really fun to listen to the album as a community, and hopefully we can really send the message that this is a great album.
Excellent. That sounds like a great idea, and in a way that's what we're doing tonight. So we just heard Ain't Got No Body. It's the opening track, and it seems as if it's part of a number of tracks which talk about music and about rock. Rock is dead, guitars are dead is one of the lines in the song, and you talk about a kind of mission in a way with regard to this new record. Is that how you feel about music, about rock music in particular?
Well, what you hear there at the beginning of the song are a number of different voices, different characters, and those are actual lines we've heard over the last few years or at different points in our career. So they're just kind of getting recycled now into our songs. And, we don't have the crystal ball. We don't know where alternative rock is going. And, of course, at some point, all genres have to fade away, and that's one of the themes that keeps coming back on this album. We don't really know what our fate is or what the fate of the record is, but this is what we're meant to do, and this is our responsibility to make the best record we can make, to stand up for alternative rock and go down swinging if we have to.
Excellent. I like that. It's almost as if, somebody's putting their hand on your shoulder and saying, look, somebody's got to do this. Rivers, it's you.
Well, it's not somebody else. I mean, it's a voice coming from inside of us. This is the music we grew up with. This is the music we started playing back in the early mid-90s. And this is just what we're meant to do. It comes very naturally to us, and it brings us great pleasure. And we know our fans feel the same way. And as the years go by, the new bands are coming up. So many of them are wonderful, and we love listening to their music, but they're just not doing the same thing. They're not doing the crunchy guitars with the beautiful melodies and the strong chord progressions and those twisted lyrics, and putting it all together to sound like Weezer. And so that's our job. We're happy to do it.
Excellent. So in a way, this is getting back to the essence, and I suppose that's where Back to the Shack fits in. Let's turn up to the radio, turn off those stupid singing shows, and crank up the volume.
That's right. That's a good segue.
Well, it makes complete sense. So, I mean, they seem very complimentary, I think. Ain't Got No Body, even though you can interpret it on a personal level. It could be, that you don't have anybody to love you. That could apply to the fans. You don't have an audience. But it's also about the big chorus and the big riff, and that continues with Back to the Shack. And you're kind of saying, if we fail, but at least, we're going to raise hell.
That's right. And Back to the Shack, on one level, it could be about returning to that particular sound we had with producer Rick Ocasek on that first album in '94. But also, I see it as a call to return to that tight-knit community we had with our audience, even before we made the record, when we were playing in the clubs every week and getting that instant reaction and learning what makes Weezer, what's working, what's not working, and who we want to be and how we're going to stand out from the crowd. And we got separated from that over the years, surrounded by industry executives. Of course, even with good intentions, they just start pulling you in different directions, and then getting separated from the fans, and maybe afraid to try out new songs on stage because they're going to get shared online and judged as finished works, even though you still haven't quite figured out how they're supposed to go yet. So you end up in a bunker and trying to solve all these problems on your own without that audience that was there with you in the beginning. So Back to the Shack could be a kind of like call to the fans and to ourselves, hey, let's all get back together and create this together.
I love that idea. And this is it, Back to the Shack. It is Weezer on Exposure XFM. It is Weezer on Exposure XFM with Back to the Shack, track 2 on the brand new album Everything Will Be Alright in the End. I'm playing you the whole thing tonight. My name is John Kennedy, and down an ISDN line in LA is Rivers Cuomo from the band, and Eulogy for a Rock Band is the next song. And in a way, Rivers, this continues this conversation that you've obviously been having with your bandmates about the state of music, the state of being in a rock band right now in 2014. And I love the idea that you're thinking, well, if we do it right, if we put our heart and soul into it, then at least we've given it our all. And it almost, though, suggests that this could be your own eulogy. Are you writing your own eulogy for Weezer? I hope not.
I was not intending to write our own eulogy, but that is something that a lot of fans have picked up on already, and a lot of fans have asked, is this your last album? Is this the end of the band? Is that what this song is about? So hopefully I haven't tuned into something unconsciously about the fate of the band. We hope to be doing many more great albums. I was actually reflecting on our predecessors, our musical forefathers, and how some of them reached the greatest heights an artist can reach as far as fame and success, and the feeling that their music was impacting the universe. And yet, as the years go by, new generations come up, and they're not familiar with those classic songs, and even the biggest bands of all time are gradually fading into oblivion. And I just started thinking about that over these last few years, and having to face that reality, not just for our forefathers, but for ourselves.
It's a tricky business. One of the things that I think is sad is when an artist's lifetime, their whole back catalogue gets reduced to just the one song that they get remembered for.
Yeah.
Even though they might have released a whole series of incredible albums with a whole collection of different songs, sadly, I mean, we do it ourselves a bit. Reduce it all to the one song. So it might be Satisfaction for the Rolling Stones, or You Really Got Me for the Kinks, and you just think of all these amazing songs they also did.
Yep, and first it gets whittled down to the greatest hits, and then a handful of songs, and then just the one song, and then eventually nothing, as if they never existed.
That's sad.
Time marches on.
It does, to quote the song. Let's hear it now. Time marches on. It is Eulogy for a Rock Band. It is Weezer, Wipe Away the Tears. Eulogy for a Rock Band, the third track on the brand new album, Everything Will Be Alright in the End. It's a reassuring title, Rivers. And even though you're kind of making me sad with some of the things that you're talking about, I like the idea that you're trying to reassure us at the same time and saying, actually, it's okay. But in the meantime, we do have this music to share.
Yeah, and I think it's fine to question that title, too. Like, there's so many levels on this album, and there's so much darkness and troubling ideas and thoughts and realizations, and I don't know, are we comfortable saying everything will be all right in the end, at the end of it? I think there's a good argument for either way of looking at it.
Interesting. So the first three songs seem to be of a certain sequence. They seem to go well together thematically, and then Lonely Girl follows, which seems to change the direction of the album. Am I right in thinking that? Well,
I don't know. You could see Lonely Girl as being somewhat on the same plane as Ain't Got Nobody, the first song. It could be, it's another one of those songs that's, at least on the surface is about a girl. We've also got Da Vinci. Cleopatra is a more mature take on a male-female relationship. So one way of looking at it is you got a handful of girl songs, one of which is Lonely Girl, and then you got other songs that address father figures, and Eulogy is about our musical forefathers. British Are Coming is about the my country's imperial father, the British Empire.
Yeah, we'll get onto that.
Foolish father. Oh yeah, I shouldn't jump the gun. But I guess there's a couple of different ways to divide this album up if you want to. But I suppose it's fair to say Lonely Girl feels like a step in a new direction when you get there.
It sounds great. I mean, you seem to do these things, as we've already kind of said, but you seem to do these things where you come up with what is a fairly simple love song or a discussion of relationships, but there, as you say, there are many different levels and there are complexities involved there. And I'm intrigued to know how it works with the creation of these songs with the band. And clearly, from what you're saying, you do discuss things with the rest of the band about concepts and ideas. But do you bring it to them fully formed, or are these songs the result of these conversations that you have with everybody else?
Well, each guy has a different role to play, and some guys want to be more involved at the beginning stages, and they share their ideas, and then other guys, it's more helpful for them to be detached, and they're just more naturally inclined to be detached, and then it's so useful to have their perspective when I can present a more finished product, a more finished outline of how I want it all to go, and then they have like a fresh ears and fresh eyes, and they can give us a less biased reaction, which is very helpful. So we're lucky we have all different sorts of characters on this team.
Yeah, so you can bounce ideas around and see what works best. I mean, I read that a lot of the songs started on piano with you for this record.
Yeah, piano was a very liberating instrument for me this time around because I'm not very good at it. On guitar, I had to just have all these patterns and muscle memory tricks and things my hands automatically do without my willing them, and it can be a little uninspiring. On the piano, I don't know what I'm doing, and I just have to follow my heart and follow my ear, and at the same time, it's by nature a contrapuntal instrument. You have your left hand doing the bass line, right hand doing chords and melody, and at any moment, either one of them can break off in different directions, play a different rhythm, different feel, different mood, different key, and it's it's so wonderful for a fan of counterpoint like me. So I would start the songs often on piano, come up with the ideas, and then very quickly switch back to guitar because we don't want to make a piano-based record. We want to make a guitar rock record. So the piano gets left behind, but I'm very grateful to the time I spent on it.
Yeah, interesting. But we do hear some piano on the album. But in the meantime, we're going to hear Lonely Girl. This is Weezer with Lonely Girl on XFM. It is Weezer and Lonely Girl providing family entertainment tonight on Exposure XFM. Hello to the Castillos who emailed just before the Weezer album playback started. We can't wait for the new Weezer. Please know Chicago and Northwest Indiana is waiting to hear, and we are so excited, listening and loving you always. Cheers from across the pond. The Castillos, Tony, Priscilla, Teeny, Alexia and Jacob. And happy birthday to Tony. It's his birthday today. Fantastic to have you listening on your birthday. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to get in touch, john.kennedy@xfm.co.uk. That's my email address. 83936 is the text number. You can tweet at XFM, at XFM Manchester, at XFM Scotland. Tonight, it is the Exposure album playback of Everything Will Be Alright in the End, the brand new album from Weezer, their 9th record, their first in 4 years. It's sounding fantastic, and we've got Rivers Cuomo talking us through it track by track. And next up is I've Had It Up to Here. Exposure on XFM. I'm John Kennedy, and that is Weezer with I've Had It Up to Here. It's track 5 from the brand new album, Everything Will Be Alright in the End. It is the 9th Weezer album, and tonight I'm playing you the whole thing, and I've got Rivers Cuomo, the other end of an ISDN line, to give a little bit of insight into the record. And I've Had It Up to Here has a kind of, almost a kind of funky swing to it, I think. I mean, did this come from the starting on the piano at all?
No, this is I've Had It Up to Here is the verse I think you're talking about is definitely on guitar. Chorus was piano. Yeah, I think the bridge is kind of a combination. Sorry.
Yeah, no,
baffling expectations here.
No, it's good. That's
just when we thought we had it figured out.
That's what this conversation's all about, is that we want to hear it from you to find out a bit more. And I really like the backing vocals, and there are shades of Queen on this record, I think. I mean, are Queen an inspiration to you?
Of course, I grew up on Queen. They're a huge inspiration. I love the Beach Boys, and any chance we have to do vocal harmonies, we jump at.
Yes, no,
and of course the guitar solo style too is very Brian May.
Yes,
the underlying chord progression. It's like maybe that comes from the piano, just those classical chord changes and those passing tones in the bass line, chromatic passing tones.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, listening to I've Had It Up to Here, I mean, it seems pretty philosophical in a way. You know, I don't want to become the thing that I despise. Don't want my ideals polluted by mediocrity. I mean, those are big statements. Is this you speaking to yourself, trying to work out your way in the world?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are things you have to remind yourself of from time to time. And it's also a mission statement. It's just so easy to get tempted into making decisions that aren't really in line with your deepest values. So it's good to get it out on paper and to get it out on a record. Like, this is what I stand for, this is what I don't stand for, and now you can all hold me to it.
Yeah, I really like that though. I think it's rare these days to hear that on a record. And it's quite inspiring.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, no, I think so. And so, you know, I tried to give my best to you. Is that for the audience, or is that taking the song into a discussion of a relationship?
I've heard people interpret it both ways, but I was definitely thinking of an audience when I wrote it.
Yes, yeah. I mean, one of the things, there seems to be an incredible amount of integrity to what Weezer do. You know, which ties in with the line in the song about I don't want my music to be less well known than my face. And this is your reaction to the way things are in 2014. That sometimes, you know, if you can play the game right, if you can kind of surf that celebrity wave, then you reach a kind of certain notoriety, a certain kind of level of success, and in inverted commas. And yet, you know, what do you leave behind you? No, it just washes up on the shore, and then there's nothing. No.
Yeah, it is so tempting now more than ever, perhaps, to draw attention to yourself, and whether it's with your face or your look or doing something outrageous, saying something crazy on Twitter, just to get attention. There's such an urge to get page views, to get clicks, likes, followers, and so on. And I don't know. It just doesn't have much to do with what we really care about in Weezer and what our fans care about. And we just want to make a great record. And I don't know if that's really going to draw a lot of attention, especially at first. But hopefully it has a greater lasting impact, or at least we're making the kind of impact we want to make or that we care about.
Yeah, no, exactly. So you mentioned this song earlier. The British Are Coming is the next song on the album, and you said it referred to your forefathers, America's forefathers, and the British Empire. I mean, obviously, the Redcoats are coming and the British are coming was a phrase used by, was it those Minutemen who ran along on horseback warning people that the Redcoats were coming? I'm sure I'm getting my history terms mixed up here.
We were surprised to find that English people don't know the story as well as we all do. We assumed the whole world loved this story, but I guess that's just American arrogance. But we've discovered, because the engineer who was making the record with us is English, and he had no idea what the song was about. So the rest of us were quite shocked. So it's the story we all learn in probably first or second grade here in the U.S. about Paul Revere taking a ride from Cambridge to Concord to warn all the patriots that the British Army, the Redcoats, were on their way to knock out the rebellion before it got underway. And I just used that as a metaphor for some of the imperial forces in my life and how we all got to wake up and stand up and put up a fight.
Right, interesting. So what would those imperial forces be then, Rivers?
I think I don't want to point the finger at anyone else explicitly now, but I think ultimately any negative force out there is powerless if it's not taking advantage of some weakness in you. So I think I would rather point the finger at my own weaknesses, which would be, any kind of weakness that would lead me to sell out or to do make some kind of artistic choice that wasn't coming from the deepest place.
Yeah, sure.
Some kind of commercial ambition, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But there are certainly forces and people and companies around us that would certainly like to steer us in lucrative directions like that.
And we should heed your warning, I think. This is a wake-up call for us all. The British are coming. It is Weezer on XFM. Rivers jogging my history memories. Great story there, of course. Paul Revere and the Raiders, a great US band. And there's so much more to come. We're halfway through. What do you think of it so far? 83936 john.kennedy@xfm.co.uk. You can tweet at XFM. Hello to Amy from Paddington here. Loving the new Weezer album. Can't wait to finally own it in a week. I know, we're giving it to you a week ahead of its release. It's out next Monday, but you can hear the whole thing tonight with Rivers continuing to talk us through it track by track. And Go Away is the next one, but please don't go away. And I have Rivers from Weezer down the end of an ISDN line giving us the lowdown on this new record. And there's a lot to learn. So we've covered a bit of American history with the British Are Coming. We looked at the forefathers of rock and roll. And with Da Vinci, are you revealing an interest in art history?
I don't know. I'm definitely not an expert. These are some of the most obvious references you could make to art history, so that's about as far as my knowledge goes. But I just really like the colorful language and the interesting references. And to me, this is, of course, you could take it as a song about a girl, but I also think of it as a song about our muse and how ineffable, how inexpressible she is, and how much we crave to be in her presence, and how difficult that is to capture and maintain.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing being an artist, and hoping the muse will descend, in effect. I mean, has it been like that throughout the course of Weezer? Because, say there's 4 years between this record. I mean, obviously you really wanted to get this right, and you'd set yourself a goal. But have there been times when the muse has gone wandering, and you've wondered where she's gone?
Yeah, well, I think the point of the song is very similar to the point of the song Only in Dreams, which closed Weezer's first album. Again, that's a song a lot of fans have always assumed is about a girl, but it's really we're singing about our muse and how we just can't seem to pin her down with our reason. Like, we try to think our way towards great art, but it just can't be done. It's just this thing that arises, that appears, that descends, as you put it. And sometimes the less directly you're seeking for her, the more likely she is to appear.
She's tricky, that muse. Don't know. What would we do without her, though? Because obviously, she inspires so many people to do great things and enriches us all, And I do enjoy the whistling on Da Vinci as well. Not enough whistling in rock and roll, as far as I'm concerned, these days.
Yeah, that was a contentious decision. We weren't all sure about having a whistle on there. It's maybe the first one on a Weezer record, but there's just something that made that hook stick out a little bit more and be a little bit more memorable. So we're going to have to practice our whistles now for these club shows we have coming up.
Yeah, interesting. So is there one notable whistler in Weezer, or do you all give it a go?
I have a pretty good reputation. I have kind of like this like middle-aged janitor vibrato on my whistle.
Excellent. Oh, that's lovely. I can hear it. Fantastic. I can visualize you pushing the broom along as you're doing that. Fantastic. And Da Vinci is followed by Go Away. Does this feature another singer when I'm listening to it? Because I don't know whether I had enough information about the record. But who's the girl singing with you?
This girl is another Southern California artist from the band Best Coast. Her name is Bethany Cosentino.
She's been on my show. She came in and played a couple of acoustic songs a few years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I love her style and her voice and just that Southern California cool girl group pop mid-60s sound she has. So it was a real delight to work with her.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. I mean, the results are great. And did she come into the studio with you? Because so many collaborations these days seem to be done via email.
Oh, no, we were in the studio together for a couple days and listening to music and talking about what we loved about music, how both of us we have a side that just loves simple, pure, mid-60s pop music that is not trying to be cool or pretentious in any way. It's great pop. So we wanted to do something like that.
Yeah, no, it works a treat, the way that the vocals are exchanged between the two of you. And really, the female protagonist, she's not going to give you another chance at all, is she? No, you're dead in the water here.
Pretty much. It looks that way. It's one of the bleakest and most unhopeful choruses you'll ever hear in a duet. But for that reason, it probably has it will have a limited appeal, but I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's very cool.
It's like the anti-duet.
Yeah. Well, I can see, on the other hand, a lot of people identifying with it quite strongly, and thinking, yeah.
Sadly, that's true.
Excellent. And while you're listening to that, you can make up your mind as to which viewpoint you take. This is Weezer with Go Away on XFM. It's a Weezer Best Coast tag team sounding fantastic. Go Away from Everything Will Be Alright in the End, the brand new Weezer album out next week, but getting the Exposure album playback treatment tonight. I'm playing you the whole thing. And hello again to Priscilla, who says Weezer forever. I mentioned that I saw the Weezer at Riot Fest here in Chicago 3 weekends ago. I've seen them many times and have taken my kids, but these guys were on fire when we saw them. They still make me smile like I'm 13, and yet I am 37. This is the thing, it's classic music that just puts a skip in your step, doesn't it? Hello to David, who says, loving the new Weezer album. Little bit of trivia question for the band. Is one of the band's members' fathers still a taxi driver in LA? Dave, I don't know. I mean, the conversation was recorded last week with Rivers, but I suspect there might be some knowledgeable Weezer fans who may be able to help us here. So is one of the band members' fathers still a taxi driver in LA? Let us know. And Eric, listening in Atlanta, Georgia, has informed me that one of Paul Revere and the Raiders Crusaders, the band I mentioned, with regard to the British Are Coming song, actually taught him in college. That's amazing. Have you got any more trivia like that? Get in touch. john.kennedy@xfm.co.uk, 83936. You can tweet, you can at XFM, you can text, and hello to Jonas, who says, very excited about the impending Weezer record. It's got me cassette taping XFM like I'm 16 again. That is the power of radio. And the music continues with Cleopatra next. Cleopatra on Exposure XFM. It is track 9 from the brand new Weezer album, Everything Will Be Alright in the End. Rivers Cuomo is down the end of an ISDN line. I'm John Kennedy. And every time I read out that title, Rivers, and considering what you've said about it already, it seems less reassuring as I'm reading it out. Because when I first saw the title, I thought, yeah, brilliant. They're giving us a positive future. And now I'm thinking, oh, well, maybe not. Maybe it's double-edged.
Yeah, gosh, now I feel bad. I think that's always been true about Weezer, is that on the surface, it seems so hopeful and happy and positive. Everything's in a major key. But once you start digging down into the lyrics, there's just a lot of really troubling thoughts and darkness. And I hope that makes it better. It makes it feel more real and whole to me. But I hope that doesn't bum people out. And I know sometimes when our fans follow me on Twitter, they realize that I'm not necessarily as cheery and bright as they assume from the record. So maybe I should just learn to hold my tongue a little more and appear as bright as they think I am.
I think that after a few listens to any Weezer album, they get a sense of what kind of guy you are really. And they like that. That's one of the reasons why Weezer appeal to people. I think that there is this dichotomy with what you do. There's a darkness and a lightness.
I sure hope so, because that's what I love about it.
No, it's great. Clearly you enjoy doing it in that way as well. You think, right, I've got this really great, bright, catchy riff that's irresistible, and I'm going to twist it a little bit with these words.
I do enjoy it. And moreover, it just feels real. That just feels like that this is what I'm experiencing, and I want to get it all in there.
Yeah, excellent. So Cleopatra, the song we've just heard, where does this fit into the way that you've worked up this new record?
Boy, I sure love this song. It feels like I'm tackling a male-female relationship and sexuality and power in a way that's much more mature than I've been able to do before. So I hope fans can relate to it. On top of that, it has occasional bar of 5, which is pretty odd. I don't think we've done that before. But it's so much fun for us as a band to be able to lay into something complex like this.
Yeah, and then there's the counting, which is always a good thing in rock and roll.
Yeah, well, some people were surprised by the counting, and 5, 10, 15, 20, and just seemed a little odd to them or inexplicable. But I think as soon as they realize what I'm doing is counting down the age of her life and going through her life stages, and of course she represents all of us, then I think it makes a little more sense.
Yeah, and I think it's going to work a treat in these club shows coming up. That you'll have the whole crowd counting along with you.
Yeah.
Exciting stuff. And Cleopatra is followed by Foolish Father, which is a really quite touching song, I think. One of the more touching songs that you've written, I would say.
Thank you. It is for me too. And it's like I'm at this place now where I can write with a more mature perspective, and I've written songs about father-child relationships before, but more often from the perspective of the child, oftentimes pointing the finger of blame at the father. But now I have my own kids, so the tables have turned, and I have a little bit more to sing about in a different perspective, and it is quite touching to me. And I think the message hopefully comes across that of the importance of forgiveness and realizing that we're all just doing the best we can, as people and as parents and family members, and forgiveness can really go a long way towards creating a harmonious relationship. And it's a great way to start wrapping up the album, and then we go into this coda where we say, and everything will be all right in the end, and the choir comes in and joins us, and I think really gives a feeling of triumph and positivity to a record that has posed a lot of tough questions.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it is really rousing hearing the choir. And did that chorus come before the album title? Did the album title take its come from that?
Well, I don't want to reveal too much about our compositional methods because that would be the magician giving away the trick. So why don't we first enjoy the album for what it is, and just wonder, like, how the heck did they do that? And then maybe in a few years we can go back and say, oh, it's actually quite simple. We just did this and this.
Yeah. No, fair enough. That's good. Excellent. This is definitely one of the standouts for me. This is Foolish Father. It is Weezer on XFM. Everything will be all right in the end. We heard it in the song there. It's the reassurance we need. Rivers is on the ISDN line to give us that reassurance as well. And Foolish Father is followed by 3 tracks, which are parts 1, 2, and 3. The Wasteland, Anonymous, and Return to Ithaca. Would you want me to play them back to back without an interruption, or do you want me to continue the conversation between each of those songs? Which would you prefer, Rivers?
Wow.
See, I'm giving you the option. As the artist, you're the creative person, the mastermind behind it all. And I wondered whether, should we interrupt this with a bit of conversation, or are they meant to be heard as one piece?
Well, like I was saying before with Weezer, I'm hoping that it can work on both levels. I think it would be a more unique, mind-blowing experience for listeners if you just played the whole thing. But if you feel strongly otherwise, I have no problem with breaking it up.
Yeah. No. Well, I think we'll go with your suggestion, but we'll just have a quick conversation about the 3 parts of the piece. And did the whole thing evolve in one go, or were these things that were kind of following you around, different ideas that were nagging at you, and you thought, well, maybe the best thing to do would be to put them into some kind of suite, or some conceptual sequence that would work really well? So there's the Wasteland, then Anonymous, and Return to Ithaca. And the Wasteland is almost all instrumental. Return to Ithaca is as well. It's a really kind of rousing finale to the record. And in between you've got Anonymous, which starts with piano and then builds up to just a few words. How did it all come about?
Now here we go again.
Yeah.
I'm so tempted to tell all our secrets, and I know some fans would be very curious to see how it was made, but I want people to hear this with an open mind and not to be biased by anything they learned about how it was made. And I'd like to preserve some sort of mystery around it, which is how so many of my favorite records came to me, often on mixtapes or just bootleg cassettes I had of out-of-print albums, or like the Beach Boys' Smile album. And, I had so little information on these things or how they were made, but they were it's such a wonderful way to experience it, and just with your ears and with the vibrations that are coming to you through the speakers and no other information. So I'm sorry to say I think I might have to pass on that question.
No, fair enough. Well played, and very politely done as well. It's interesting. And Ithaca is spelt with a K. I was wondering whether it was a particular place, or was it a place that you want to remain vague? Because immediately seeing the title, you see, I thought, oh, Ithaca, New York, or in Ithaca, Greece. No, but then it's spelled with a K, so it's like, that's interesting.
Yeah, well, it's definitely more about ancient Ithaca in ancient Greece, more than modern day Ithaca, New York. And in my translation of Homer, Ithaca is spelled with a K. And this is the end of the Odyssey, when Odysseus has been lost at sea for years, and finally he's made it home, and he's learned that all these other princes and kings have moved into his house and are trying to sleep with his wife, and she has been faithful to him in spite of the fact she does not know if he's even still alive. He's storms back into his house and kills all these guys, and that part of the story is called Return to Ithaca, and the music hopefully captures some of that energy and spirit of triumph and revenge and vindication and just reward for her faithfulness and his determination to make it back to her.
And what a great way to end the record. I mean, that's, and it is really rousing. I think you definitely tap into that, and it's interesting to hear about that. And the Wasteland, you see, I would immediately think of T.S. Eliot when I think of the Wasteland, but that could be something else. And it's interesting that you're tapping into so many different things on this record, Rivers.
Yeah, definitely T.S. Eliot, and you can tell because I think anyone else would spell the Wasteland as one word. He breaks it into two. So our wasteland could be that place you find yourself, the world in which you find yourself when you've sold out and you've chasing after clicks and page views and research, and you've lost touch with that source of inspiration that cares nothing for those things. Yeah, you found yourself in the wasteland.
Rivers, thanks so much for talking to me and telling us about the album. Have a fantastic time on the club tour. That sounds like it'll be an amazing experience. And when are you coming to the UK?
We are coming to the UK next summer, if I have anything to say about it.
Right, because a few people, obviously I've mentioned to people that I was going to be talking to you today, and they've said, when are they coming back? Various different people have seen you either before or haven't seen you, and it's a lifetime ambition to get to see Weezer. So, I hope that can be quite a few dates, not just like a fly in and do one date and then disappear.
That would be our dream come true.
Yeah, so a big tour of the UK, setting up home for a month.
That would be awesome.
Well, where there's a will, there's a way. You can make it happen.
That's true.
Yeah, excellent. Rivers, thanks again. And congratulations on the record. Now I'm going to play the final suite, The Wasteland Anonymous and Return to Ithaca. This is the concluding chapter to Everything Will Be All Right in the End. In full tonight on Exposure XFM.
Who got the remedy? Who got the remedy? John Kennedy. Who got the remedy? John Kennedy.
Weezer with the closing track to the brand new album. Everything Will Be All Right in the End. Return to Ithaca, Anonymous and The Wasteland, the closing suite. Sounding fantastic. And thank you very much to Rivers Cuomo for talking to me and being such a fantastic interviewee. Absolutely fascinating stuff. Talking about the existential position in the 21st century. Talking about history and Paul Revere and Homer and T.S. Eliot. Absolutely fascinating stuff. The album is out next week. I think it's absolutely fantastic. A real fantastic return. What do you think? 83936 john.kennedy@xfm.co.uk. You can tweet at XFM, at XFM Scotland, at XFM Manchester. It would be fantastic to hear from you. And this day next week, I'll be doing another Exposure album playback, but this time with Johnny Marr. And I've got a selection from Johnny's new album on the way for you next.